Hello. Maimuna, what we did in last class? Anybody? No? No one remember? Come on.
So we finished the drawing for nerve fiber or neurons.
Yes. We finished the nerve fiber or neuron, right? So this was the actually structure of neuron, and I think we were supposed to write it down today, right? So what are the neurons and what are the nerve fiber? So let's start. So this was the diagram which we studied. So did you written anything or not? No, nothing. I have dictated. Have you written anything about the neurons?
No, sir.
No.
Okay.
So okay, fine. So yeah, even I have idea that I think I have just explained the diagram to you, and we were supposed to write it down. So start writing down, right? So all this intel once again, I would like to refresh it. Like look, this part. So in last class we have studied that this neurons is a structural unit of nervous system, and in fact this is the basic cell of nervous system. This upper part is this is called this part. This part is called soma or body, and soma or body have some branch-like structure. These branch structures are called dendroids, right? These dendroid, it have a large prominent nucleus. Around that there is a protoplasm that is called neuroplasm over here in neuron cells. There are some Nissel's granules, and we have discussed in last class that Nissel's granules are responsible for the formation of protein, right? And this part is called axon. Actually, axon is covered with like outside of the axon there are Schwann cells. Schwann cells secrete a special kind of the protein, that is myelin protein. Myelin protein makes a covering or sheath around these axons, right? So but myelin sheath may be or may not be in any neurons. This is not mandatory that myelin sheath should be there. There are some joints from where the branches come out. These are called node of Ranvier, right? So branches come out, branches arise from here. The last part is called root. Root is made up of these are axon terminals, right? And between the two axons, the joint between the two axons is called synapse. And between two neurons, transfer of signals takes place with the help of chemical. These chemicals are called neurotransmitters. That's all we have discussed in last class, right? So let's start writing now. First point. So the heading is neuron or nerve cell. Hope you must have drawn it. So this is the structural and functional unit. Start writing now. This is the structural and functional unit of neural tissues. This is the structural and functional unit of neural tissue. Full stop. Neuron is the largest cell. Neuron is the longest cell of the body. I'm sorry, not largest. Neuron is the longest cell of body. Neuron is the longest cell of body. Full stop. Human neural system have approximately human neural system have approximately 100 billion neurons. Human neural system have approximately 100 billion neurons, right? Next point. It's a very important point. Very important point. This is the question. Fully formed neurons never divide. Fully formed neurons never divide. And the question which have already been asked, that in which phase of cell cycle they are found. Fully formed neurons never divide, and they remain in interface of fully formed neuron never divide, and they remain in interface of cell cycle. Interface of cell cycle throughout the life. They remain in interface of cell cycle throughout the life. Full stop. Shortly after birth, new neurons do not develop. Shortly after birth, new neurons do not develop. Next point. Cell body or soma, cell body or soma varies in size. Full stop. It consists of cytoplasm, called neuroplasm, consists of cytoplasm called neuroplasm, comma, large spherical nucleus, comma, mitochondria, Golgi body, mitochondria, Golgi body, endoplasmic reticulum, comma, lysosome, ribosome, and Nissel's granule, Full stop. Nissel's granule most probably synthesize protein. Next point.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, can you please read once from neuron is the longest cell of the body? Actually, I got disconnected.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Neuron is the longest cell of the body, body. Full stop. Human neural system have approximately 100 billion neurons. Next point. Fully formed neurons never divide. And remains in interface throughout the life. Right? And the question, at what stage of the cell cycle neurons are found, that question I've been asked many times in medical exams. So we were here in dendrites. So continue writing down after that. Then first we written down cell cycle, soma or body. Then dendrites, they conduct nerve impulses towards the cell body. Cell body, and are called afferent process, that is receiving process, because they receive signal. So in bracket you can write it on afferent process, that is receiving process, means they receive the stimulus. Next point, axons. Axons are single, usually long. Axons are single, usually long. Full stop. The cell membrane of axon, the cell membrane of axon is called axolemma. The cell membrane of axon is called axolemma, and its cytoplasm is called exoplasm. Full stop. It ends up in group of branches. It ends up in the group of branches called axon terminal. It ends up in the group of branches called axon terminals. Full stop. Axon conduct nerve impulses. Axon conduct nerve impulses away from cell body. Axon conduct nerve impulses away from cell body. That's why they are called efferent process. That's why they are called efferent process, that is away from body, right? Next point. Axons may be myelinated or non-myelinated. That's what I told you. Or non-myelinated. Axons may be myelinated or non-myelinated. Full stop. Myelinated axons, myelinated axons always have Schwann cell. Always have Schwann cells. We have discussed this thing. You can see over here. Look, this myelin sheath is made up of Schwann cells. Myelinated neurons always have Schwann cells which form myelin sheath around it. Full stop. Non-myelinated neurons do not have Schwann cells. Is that clear, all of you? Is that clear to all of you? Clear, guys?
So can you say what Schwann cells again?
Yes. Non-myelinated neurons do not have Schwann cells. Non-myelinated neurons do not have Schwann cells. I think it's clear to all of you, right?
No. What is Schwann cells? I'm asking.
Okay, you want to know what is the Schwann cells? Look, there are this central part is called what? The central part is called axon. On the axons, there are a different kind of the cells which are stuck on it. These are called Schwann cells. Schwann cells secrete a special type of the protein that is called this yellow color protein that is called myelin protein, right? and they make a covering around these axons that is called myelin sheath. So Schwann cells are those cells which secrete myelin protein, and myelin is that protein which makes covering around the axons. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what is the function of, now you should ask me, what is the function of myelin? So function of myelin increases the rate of transmission of signal, or simply I can say they increases the speed of transmission of signal. Clear? Okay. So now next heading is central neural system. Basically we are going to study human brain. So next heading is central neural system. So the next is human brain. Right. So we are going to study human brain, right? So let me share with you a diagram of human brain. Then I will make you to write it down something about it. Brain. Look, this is actually human brain.
So,
Yeah.
are we starting central neural system?
We are.
I'm asking, are we starting central neural system?
Yes, we are studying central nervous system, CNS, right? So human brain is part of CNS, right? So CNS, right? So CNS, in CNS, first we are talking about the human brain, right? So first, let me tell you what are the main part of the human brain. Look, so this is the this upper part, this pink color part. This is called actually forebrain, right? So this upper part is called basically forebrain. So this is this complete upper part. This is basically forebrain. So forebrain is further made up of many parts. We'll discuss all those parts which are the part of forebrain, right? So this upper part, this upper side, this all pink color part is called forebrain. Now, what are the sub parts of the forebrain? Again, the forebrain have been divided into further some sub parts. So forebrain. Now the part of forebrain have further some sub parts. Will discuss this sub part. So the sub part of the forebrain, the first and foremost part. So this is called olfactory lobe. Olfactory means smell sensing. Olfactory lobe. So the first part is of olfactory lobe. Then cerebrum. Cerebrum that work like processor of brain. Cerebrum. Then diencephalon. Diencephalon. So further, this forebrain have been divided into three parts: olfactory lobe, cerebrum, and diencephalon. Next, that is the middle brain. Middle brain. And this middle brain, this is the part of middle brain, right? This part is called middle, right? This part is completely of middle brain. So what exactly the middle brain have? Middle brain have been divided into two parts. That is corpora quadrigemina and corpora cerebri. So first part is corpora quadrigemina. Second part is crura cerebri. Crura cerebri, right? Then we further divide into that hindbrain. Hindbrain have been further divided into three parts. What are those three parts? They are the cerebellum, and the next part is pons varoli, and the third part is medulla. Right? This is the medulla. So look, this upper part is called forebrain, and this this is the middle part. This is the middle part, and the hindbrain is made up of like three parts. So this is clearly visible over here. This actually this is the midbrain, and this part is called pons. Pons is part of hindbrain, and this is the medulla oblongata, and this is the cerebellum. So these three parts are the part of this one: first, second, and third. So this medulla is the third part, right? And pons varoli, this is the second part, and cerebellum, this is the first part. So these makes the hindbrain. So this part is physically called brain stem. So brain stem is made up of pons and medulla, right? And this upper part is basically called midbrain, right? And there is a gland that is called pituitary gland is present over here. We know hypothalamus gland is present over here. We know, and this part, this middle part of the brain is called thalamus, right? And so please note it down, the parts of brain. And look, there are these structure. So I'll tell you one by one. First, please note it down the part. Then I'll tell you. There is one more very important part. Noted? Done? Yes, guys, note it down or not?
Yes, sir. Then.
Yes, sir.
Done? Okay, great. So start noting now some factual part. Before going into the factual part, I want to share with you one more important thing. Look, the brain is covered with a cover, and we have already discussed that part in skeletal system. What we call that cover? What we call that cover? Brain is covered by a bone-like structure, bony cavity. What we call that covering? Come on, guys. What we call the bone around our brain. Come on.
Skull.
Skull. Yes, skull is made up of a bone. What is the name of that skull bone? That is called cranium. Yes.
Yes, sir.
That is called cranium. So cranium is this bone. Like we have hair. Below the hair there is a skin, and below the skin there is a strong this covering, and we call this covering cranium. So between the cranium and brain there are some membrane, right? So between the cranium and brain, this part, between the cranium and brain there are multiple membrane, right? These membranes are called meninges, right? These membranes, collectively these membranes are called meninges. And what is the composition of meninges? That we will study. So inside, below the brain there is a membrane called meninges, and inside this membrane there is a fluid called cerebrospinal fluid. These cranium, below the cranium these meninges, and inside the meninges that's cerebrospinal fluid. All these are responsible for protecting our brain from shock, from injury, from any type of the obstacle, right? So that is the function of cranium and meninges. And the part of meninges or the layer of meninges we'll study shortly, right? So start rolling now. Brain is situated, brain is situated in brain is situated in cranium cavity. Brain is situated in cranium cavity. Let's stop. The weight of brain, the weight of brain varies from 1220 gram to 1400 gram. The weight of brain, so weight of brain is not fixed. Weight of brain varies from 1220 gram to 1400 gram. Actually, the size of brain is smaller in female and it's larger in male, right? It have nothing to do with the intelligence, yeah, mind it. It have nothing to do with the intelligence. Only this is the size of new brain, right? So next, there are three membrane. There are three membrane or meninges, right? There are three membrane or meninges. So let me tell you what is the layering of meninges. That is very important for your medical examination. Actually, look. So the base part, just I have told you that the base part. So the base part is made up of cranium. So this upper part, sorry, not base part, upper part. So this upper part is made up of cranium. This is a strong bony structure, and that strong bony structure is called cranium. This is bone, right? Below the bone, so this is the bone structure. This is the bony structure, and below the bone there is a layer, and that layer is called dura mater. Below the brain there is a layer, right? So first layer of meninges, the name of this layer is dura mater. Dura mater. Below the dura mater there is a liquid like substance, and which is filled between the two membrane, and this liquid like substance, there is a liquid like substance below the dura mater. There is some liquid which protect it from the, which protect the brain, or it protect the brain from some shocks. So what is the name of this liquid? So the name of this liquid is cerebrospinal fluid. I have told you this is called cerebrospinal fluid. So this it protect from the injury, or it protect from the jerk, any kind of a jerk, right? Below the below this liquid there is another membrane that have a web like structure. This is a webby membrane, right? So this is a membrane which have a web like this structure, this web kind of structure, web like structure. Like it have a web like structure, and this membrane is called arachnoid matter. Arachnoid matter. Below the arachnoid matter, there is one more membrane, and that membrane is called pia matter, right? There is another membrane. There is another membrane, and that membrane is called pia matter. Pia matter. So in total, there are three membranes, right? So these three membranes are collectively called meninges. So the first is Dura Mater, second is arachnoid matter, third is pia matter. And these all collectively, please draw it, these all collectively are called meninges. Meninges. And the cerebrospinal fluid is found between these two membranes called Dura Mater and arachnoid matter. These questions have been asked in medical examination. Please note it down. First note it down and let me know. Please let me know when you note it down. Done?
Just a second, sir. Done, sir.
So look, like many of you might have exam, right? So in next three classes, we'll finish our complete syllabus, right? Next classes, we'll finish our complete syllabus. So just keep on revising in case if you have any confusion, in case if you have any doubt, so ask me here only, and even you can take my help, right? So during all examination part, right? So if you have any test, any examination, you want my extra help, so you can take, you can coordinate with Niskarji, and he'll uh, give you extra class. I'll be available always, right? So I'm always available during your examination as well, right? So just start noting. This
Sir,
yeah.
can you please help me with the Krebs cycle and all that?
Yeah, sure, not an issue, anytime. So you can coordinate with Niskarji. He'll talk with me, right? And we'll coordinate, like fix the time accordingly, and I'll help you. No issue.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, welcome. So please start noting down. This subarachnoid space is filled with subarachnoid space is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. The subarachnoid space is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. Now the next heading is parts of brain, right? In parts of brain, so I have just already mentioned that what are the parts of brain. So we will discuss one by one, right? So first we'll discuss the forebrain, then the rest of the part. That's how we are going to discuss. Clear? So start noting.
Sir, can you say the subheading again?
Subheading is like the parts of brain, right? Parts of brain. So basically there are three parts of brain. So we are going, first subheading is forebrain, right? So we are going to discuss parts of brain. So first is forebrain. So we have discussed parts of brain, that the forebrain is further subdivided into three parts. So out of these three parts, we have discussed that forebrain have three parts, and out of these three, first part is olfactory lobe, olfactory lobe, and then second part is called cerebrum, and third part is called diencephalon, diencephalon. Again, the cerebrum have been further subdivided into four parts, right? So cerebrum have been further subdivided into four parts, right? The first part is frontal. Frontal, we have already discussed it in skull part. Frontal means front part. Then that is uh, uh, parietal, means rooftop. Parietal. So frontal means front part. Parietal means rooftop, right? Then temporal. Temporal means temple. This part temporal, and then fourth part is occipital. Occipital means back and behind, this part, right? So I'll show you the diagram of forebrain, right? Let me show you the diagram of forebrain. Look, this is the diagram of cerebrum, right? Let me make it as smaller. This is the basically diagram of cerebrum. Now you can understand. Look, so this is the part of brain, and this is the, in fact, part of forebrain. So out of this forebrain part, this part is called frontal lobe, this part is called parietal lobe, this part is called occipital lobe, this is called temporal lobe. So these all are the part of forebrain, right? So again, the forebrain have been divided, or cerebrum have been divided. Our complete forebrain have been divided in two hemispheres. This is the left hemisphere, and this is the right hemisphere. Every hemisphere have all these four parts. So there are two frontal, two parietal, two temporal, and two occipital. Again, there are some these outgrowth like structure. These are called gyrus, right? So gyrus are the out bulge of structure. Sulcus are the depression, right? So our brain is made up of gyrus and sulcus. So start noting down. First heading is forebrain. So
Sir,
out of forebrain, yes.
what does parietal mean?
Parietal means rooftop. Rooftop.
Okay, sir.
Yes. So the first part, start noting down olfactory lobe. Olfactory means smell, we know. Olfactory lobe are concerned with the sense of smell. Olfactory lobe are concerned with the sense of smell. Next, second subheading cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest and most complex part. Cerebrum is cerebrum. So cerebrum is the largest and most complex part. Largest and most complex part of brain. Full stop. It is consist of left and right hemispheres. It is consist of left and right hemispheres. Full stop. It contain greatly folded part. It contain greatly folded part. The upward fold are called gyrus. The upward fold are called gyrus, and alternate downward folds are called sulcus. Downward folds are called sulcus. Full stop. Each cerebral hemisphere is divided into four lobes. Right? Now put the heading, first subheading, that is frontal lobe. Now you have to write it down, the function of frontal lobe in bullet form, right? Frontal lobe. So major functions are creative ideas, comma, translation, creative idea, translation. Next point, reality testing and judgment. Reality testing and judgment. Next point, intellectual ability. So our intellectual ability is due to our forebrain. The person have more developed frontal lobe means will be more intelligent. The person have less developed frontal lobe will be less intelligent, right? Next, the reasoning and decision making. Logical games, reasoning and decision making. Next, expression of emotion. Means those people who are actor or actress, they have more developed frontal part. Expression of emotions. Next, willpower and personality. It all depends on frontal lobe. So the most important part of the brain is cerebrum. Out of the cerebrum, the frontal lobe is one of the most important part, right? So the next one will be parietal lobe. Put the heading second. So B. So B subheading, that is parietal. Now, what are the function of parietal part? So parietal part is start sensory perception of touch, sensory perception of touch, pain, touch, pain, heat, and cold. Sensory perception of touch, pain, heat, and cold. Full stop. Next, knowledge about position and shape. Knowledge about position and shape. Next, taking information from environment. Taking information from environment and communicating to rest part of brain. Communicating to rest part of brain. Third, temporal lobe. Temporal lobe. Third part is temporal lobe. Decoding and interpretation of sound. Decoding and interpretation of sound and language. Decoding and interpretation of sound and language means all those nerve cord which comes from our brain, our ear, they comes to the temporal lobe. They join to temporal lobe. They send the information to temporal lobe. That's how we understand the sound. Next, smell, memory, and emotion. Smell, memory, and emotion. Last but not the least, that is the occipital. D part. So D part is occipital. Occipital. Decoding and interpretation of visual information. It means the nerve which are coming from our eyes, they directly join to occipital lobe. Decoding and interpretation of visual information, shape and color. Shape and color. That is all the function of forebrain. Clear to all of you? Clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have studied the function of cerebrum. So these all are the function of cerebrum. They are because these all are the part of and olfactory lobe. So first we studied olfactory lobe, and we have studied that olfactory lobe have the sense of smell, right? It is responsible for sense of smell. So A was the olfactory lobe, B was the cerebrum, and third part is diencephalon, right? So come to the diencephalon, the C part. That is diencephalon. Diencephalon. So please note it down. Diencephalon. Diencephalon is basically made up of epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. 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 Hypothalamus is called thermoregulatory center. Hypothalamus is called thermoregulatory center, that is control the body temperature, that is control the body temperature, and this is called thermostat. This is called thermostat of body. This is called thermostat of body. Full stop. It keeps roughly body temperature. It keeps roughly body temperature at 37 degrees centigrade. Next point. It is associated with behavioral. It is associated with behavioral activities. It is associated with behavioral activities. That is appetite, thirst, and satiety. And appetite, thirst, and satiety. Satiety means feeling of being satisfied.
Sir, can you say what's after behavioral?
Behavioral activities like appetite, thirst, and satiety. Appetite, thirst, and satiety. Satiety means feeling of being satisfied. Right? Well, last point. It also influences respiration and heartbeat. It also influences respiration and heartbeat. Right? So this was all about the forebrain. All clear? All points clear about the forebrain?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Sir,
Yes.
which part of the brain is responsible for memory?
Memory, actually, this part. This part. I think it's parietal part. Parietal part, heartbeat, hold, shape, moment, and the communication. The rest of it. No. Memory, reality testing, actual level emotions. This one, temporal part. Temporal, this one called memory. Right?
So, sir, is temporal part the only one which is also responsible for learning?
No, actually not. It's only the temporal part. Actually, basically the main part is temporal, but our hide brain, that is hypothalamus, that is also responsible for memory function, right? That's why it is all actually the hypothalamus is found at this part here, and it is always like suggested not to hit anybody over here, because this is the part which is a memory storage part, right? So this part, and even skull stops, like skull is up to this part, and this part is very soft and palpable part, right? And here our hide brain is located, that is called this one, hypothalamus, right? So put the next heading, mid and hide brain. So we studied forebrain. Now we are going to study mid and hide brain. Mid and hide brain. Right. Start putting on mid and hide. Look, midbrain. So midbrain is further made up of, we have already understood that midbrain is made up of a part that is called corpora quadrigemina. So first part is corpora quadrigemina. Corpora quadrigemina. It is concerned with sense of sight. It is concerned with its visual. It is concerned with sense of sight and hearing. It is concerned with sense of sight and hearing. The B part is corpora cerebri. Corpora cerebri. They relay impulses back and forth. They relay impulses back and forth between cerebrum, between cerebrum, comma, cerebellum, cerebrum, cerebellum, pons and medulla, pons and medulla, pons and medulla. Let's stop. The next part is hindbrain, right? So this was all about the midbrain, right? So we have studied the part of midbrain. Now the next part is hindbrain. Hindbrain. As we know, the hindbrain is made up of three parts, right? So let's discuss about these all three parts. So hindbrain, the first and most important, and in fact the largest part of the hindbrain, that is called cerebellum. Cerebellum is also, the cerebellum means is actually the small brain, right? So it means little brain. So cerebellum means little brain. A little brain, right? This is the second largest part of human brain. Underline it. This is the second largest part is cerebrum, and cerebellum second largest. This is the second largest part of human brain. This is the second largest part of human brain. Let's stop. It is well developed in human and divided into two parts. It is well developed in human and divided into two parts. Full stop. It controls the rapid muscular activity. It controls the rapid muscular activity like running, typing, and talking. Running, typing, and talking. Those people who are more talkative, their cerebellum is well developed, right? It means more developed, right? So cerebrum, we did it. So yes, alcohol affect the cerebellum and influences its function. Cerebellum also maintain body balance, right? And alcohol impair its function. So whenever a person consumes alcohol, he cannot walk straight because it disturbs the function of cerebellum, and cerebellum is responsible for maintaining body balance, right? Next part is called pons varolii. right? That is called pons varoli. Pons varoli. It relay impulses between medulla oblongata and superior part of brain. It relay impulses between medulla oblongata and superior part of brain. Superior part of brain. Full stop. Next. So, sorry.
Sir, can you repeat again?
It relay impulses between medulla oblongata and superior part of brain. Now the C, that is medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata, right? Third part of small brain, means third part of hind brain. It receive, integrate signal. It receive and integrate signal from spinal cord. It receive and integrate signal from spinal cord and send it to cerebellum and thalamus. Send it to cerebellum and thalamus. Next one. It also contain the center that regulate. It also contain the center that regulate heart rate, that regulate heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, swallowing, salivation, sneezing, vomiting, and coughing, right? This was all about the human brain. Go through it. If you have any doubt, please ask me right now. Clear to all of you? Or do you have any doubt? Shakullah, Mamuna, Shahid,
Yes.
Yusra, all of you clear?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So the next is transmission of nerve impulse. Means how does the current flows or current run in our neurons, right? How does they conduct the impulses, right? So that is the next part. That is the very important after the brain. This is very important for your skill examination. Transmission of nerve impulses. They can ask you transmission of nerve impulse. So for it, I will show you a PPT that has been made by, I have a PDF that is written by me only. So you have to take the screenshot and you have to draw that, right? It's very simple, transmission of nerve impulse. So how does the transmission of nerve impulse? So I'll tell you how does the transmission takes place actually. Transmission of yes. How does the transmission of nerve impulse takes place? Look, we have to understand. Look, transmission of nerve impulse means how does it takes place actually? Suppose that this is a neuron, right? This is a neuron. And now the transmission will take place in this direction, right? So these are the dendrites. So dendrites will get the some stimulus. This stimulus, after getting a stimulus, the sodium and potassium ion pump start running. So sodium and potassium ion, they will start running here, from here, and the impulse reaches from one point to another point in the form of sodium and potassium pump. So due to the sodium and potassium pump, these nerve impulses run from here to there. And how does this impulse travel from this point to that point? It has been explained by a theory, and that is called membrane ionic theory. It was membrane ionic theory of nerve impulse. So who given the membrane ionic theory of nerve impulse? The membrane ionic theory of the nerve impulse was given by Hudkin and Huxley in 1930. This theory states that the electrical event of a nerve fiber is governed by differential permeability of its membrane to sodium and potassium ion, and these permeability are regulated by electric field, right? So these permeability are regulated by electric field across the membrane. Just a minute, give me one second. Right. So permeability regulated by electric fields across the membrane. There are two phases, resting or potential resting. So there are two phases of this membrane, resting membrane or potential of nerve, resting membrane potential of nerve. So this is the when nerve impulse is not running, means no impulse is there. Axon membrane potential of nerve means impulse is running. Impulse is running. Impulse is running, right? So there are resting membrane potential and action membrane potential. Now come to the resting membrane potential. During it is also called polarized state. So resting membrane potential is called polarized state. Polarized state or resting potential is that state where the neurons are not working, means we do not get any stimulus or any sense, right? That is called resting potential. During this membrane have sodium and potassium pump, right? We have already understood that sodium potassium pump. So these sodium and potassium pump are a type of antipode. Yes, remember antipode? Antipode means that kind of the protein. Do you remember or not? Antiprotein is that kind of pump protein where pump are called actually channel protein, right? So if one ion will come inside, then another ion will go outside. That is called antipode, right? So these kind of membrane pumps are found. So what this pump do in general condition? So this is a neuron, and inside the neuron, this is the neuroplasm, right? This is called neuroplasm. In neuroplasm, what will happen? these antipode, they pump out 3 sodium ion and pump in 2 potassium ion. So out of these, positive charge is more positive charge in outer side. That's why the in outer side of membrane there will be positive charge, and inside the membrane there will be negative side. So for sake of example, this is side A, here will be, this is side B, and this is side C, right, of the membrane, right? So this is called polarized state. Inner protoplasm, inner protoplasm or neuroplasm, it will have high potassium ion and upper high potassium ion, and upper is called high sodium ion. So by this way, it will get, outer surface will get positive charge, inner surface will get negative charge. What is the depolarized state? Depolarized state is that when a threshold stimulus is applied, whenever the nerve get stimulus, right? Now what happened when the nerve get a stimulus? So this is A side, this is, and this is B side, and then this is the C side. Rapid influx of sodium ion start. Then what will happen? The pump will become opposite. The sodium ion at A side where it will get impulse, the polarity get reversed, right? Sodium ion start coming in and potassium ion start going in. So what happened due to influx of the 3 sodium ion inside and 2 potassium ion outside? Inside in this A side, there will be positive charge in inside and negative charge at outer side of the membrane. Now what will happen? This positive charge will start going from side A to side B inside the membrane, and outside of the membrane, what will happen? The charges will move from B side to A side, right? So the current starts flowing from A to B in the inner surface. On outer surface, current starts flowing from B to A, right? It is also called the action potential of nerve impulse, right? This is also called action potential, and impulse start running from side A to B, and the same then from B to C. And inner surface, the potential or charges will move from A to B, B to C. In outer surface, B to A, then C to B. That's how the charges will move, and that's how the transmission of nerve impulse takes place. Is it clear or not? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So please take the screenshot of this one, and I expect that you will draw this diagram and you will write it down properly in your notebook. That's what I expect from your end. Done? Take a screenshot of this one as well, and you will note it. You have to note it down. Now, is it clear to all of you? This is very important for your school examination. They will ask you.
Yes.
Okay, great. It will be a 4 marker, like 3 marker question. Now come to the next topic. So put the next heading, that is the transmission of impulse between 2 neurons. Right? So the next part is transmission of impulse between 2 neurons or neurons. Again, I have notes for it. I will show you the PDF, and you have to take the screenshot, and you have to write it down in your notebook, and you have, in fact, you have to draw it in your notebook. Transmission of nerve impulse between 2 neurons. Yes. How does the transmission of impulse takes place between 2 neurons? Try to understand. Look, between 2 neurons or between two cells, there may be two type of the synapse. We have already understood synapse. So synapse is called, what is synapse? Synapse is, come on guys, tell me. Synapse is
The gap between two.
yes, very good. The junction between two neurons, and that is called synapse. So this is the synapse, right? Electrical synapse. In electrical synapse, what will happen? This is the presynaptic neuron, and this is the postsynaptic neuron. Means this is the part of neuron 2, and this is the part of neuron 1, right? Between these two neurons, there is a joint that is called gap junction. Gap junction is made up of a small protein, so tubular structure that allow the movement of ions between the neurons. So what happened? These are the tubular structure, right? They are made up of protein. So what happened? Directly the ions transfer from one neuron to another. This is the faster transmission. So faster transmission takes place by the help of these neurons, and they are basically found in our brain where the faster transmission is required. So these are the first kind of the synapse. Clear? Another are called chemical synapse. In chemical synapse, the junction between the two chemical synapses is called synaptic cleft. So the junction between the two electrical synapses is called gap junction, and the junction between the two chemical synapses is called synaptic cleft. How does it takes place? First, I will try to tell you with the help of this diagram. As we have studied, this is the same what we have studied in our skeletal muscles part, right? How does the impulses came? So look, in first point, try to understand. In first point, the nerve impulse arrived at presynaptic knob. Look, nerve impulse arrived over here. When nerve impulse arrived over here, calcium ion enters from the cleft to knob. So what happened? Calcium ion, this one, second step. So first step, this is the first step. Second step, calcium ion starts coming inside from the outer part of synaptic cleft. When calcium ion come inside, what happened? These vesicle starts moving downward, right? Now the third part is that vesicle, this is the third part. Vesicle starts moving to the downward and causes exocytosis. Now the fourth part, due to exocytosis, the neurotransmitter is discharged into cleft. Neurotransmitter discharge. When neurotransmitter is discharged, next fifth part, neurotransmitter bind between the receptor. These neurotransmitter bind within the receptor. When neurotransmitter bind the receptor, right? Sodium ion allowed to enter. Sodium ion starts coming inside, allowed inside the they start allowed inside the right. And next, depolarization of action potential starts. Now the depolarization takes place, means action potential starts in next membrane. That's how the chemical synapse work and chemical transmission takes place. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Take the screenshot of this one. First, take this part.
Sir, can you repeat electrical and chemical synapses again?
In electrical synapse, what happened? The sodium ion directly transfer from one neuron to another neuron. Why? Because there are small, very small pipe-like structure. They are made up of protein, and these are called gap junction, right? So directly transmit. So this is the faster mode of transmission. These kind of the junctions are found in the neurons in our brain. Clear?
Yes, sir.
In chemical synapse, what happened? A chemical that is called neurotransmitter transfers from one synapse to another, and it is a slower part, right? And below we have shown this step of transmission of chemical impulse. So what is the first step? In first step, impulse comes. When impulse arrive here, these synaptic knobs start taking calcium ion inside. When calcium ion start entering, due to entry of calcium as the third step, these vesicles start moving down. When vesicle comes at the edge, they discharge the chemical called neurotransmitter. Fourth step, this neurotransmitter is received by the receptor present in another neuron. This receptor receive the neurotransmitter and channel open. Due to open of channel, sodium ion enter into another neuron, and that's how the nerve impulse is transmitted from one neuron to another neuron. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So take the screenshot of this part as well. And I expect you will note it down in your notebook. The next part which we are going to study.
Sir, can you please scroll up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sir.
So now next thing which we are going to study, that is what are the reflex section and what is the reflex arc. Let me tell you. So put the heading reflex section and reflex arc. Right. So reflex section. It's easy. So this is the reflex section or reflex arc. Look, reflex actions are those actions which takes place suddenly, right? The actions which takes place suddenly, they are called reflex actions, right? They are the sudden actions, right? Suppose that as we touch the heated object, we suddenly pull out the hand. That is called reflex. Blinking of eyes, that is called reflex action, right? So these are the reflex actions, and there are two type of the reflex actions. The reflex actions, some reflex action, they are the controlled by spinal cord, and another kind of the reflex action which are controlled by the brain, right? So in case of a spinal cord, like touching a hot object, these kind of the information do not reaches. So those reflex action which are controlled by spinal cord, in these reflex action, the nerve impulses, in these kind of the reflex action, information do not reaches to our brain. So what happened when we touch any hot object? These neurons take the information, and these are the sensory neurons. They take the information to the brain, to the backbone. In the backbone, there is a neuron called relay neuron. This relay neuron takes the information and takes the decision. After taking the decision, this relay neuron, it gives the order to the effector muscles. And effector muscles is the muscles or skeletal muscles of our body part. And that's how they work, and we pull back the hand, right? So, and this pathway is called reflex pathway. Look, the part of neurons which take information toward the brain, or sorry, toward the backbone, they are called sensory. So sensory take the information. That's why sensory are called afferent process. Afferent. Sensory take the information, decision taken by relay, and these motor neuron. So motor neuron, they bring down the order, and motor are called efferent process. Efferent process, right? So this is the afferent process and efferent process, and that's how they take the information. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So please start noting now. It is the spontaneous.
Sir, can you say from the start? I got disconnected.
Yeah, sure. It is the spontaneous, autonomic. It is the spontaneous, autonomic, mechanical response to a stimulus, without the will of animal to a stimulus without will of animal. Full stop. If reflex action is controlled by spinal cord, if reflex action is controlled by spinal cord, it is called spinal reflex action. Spinal reflex action. And if it is controlled by brain, and
So it is called spinal
reflex action. And if it is controlled by brain, and if it is controlled by brain, it is called cerebral reflex action. It is called cerebral reflex action. It is called cerebral reflex action. Example: withdraw of limb when we touch hot object. Withdrawal of limb when we touch hot object. Next, opening of mouth on hearing loud sound. Opening of mouth while hearing loud sound. Right? So these were reflex action and reflex arc. We have studied nerve impulse conduction on all that. The next, there are two very important things which we have to study, and we'll study next class. So that is the human eye and human ear. Then we will complete this chapter and we will move to the next chapter, that is the chemical coordination and control. So on Wednesday, we will start from the human eye and human ear. And after completion of the human eye and human ear, we will start with the last chapter, that is the chemical coordination. Right? Clear?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir.
No. So revise the chapter, and next class we'll start with continue with the human eye. Right?
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
What is ECR?
ACR, it's not autonomous nervous system. ACR, where it has been given? ACR.
No, sir, it's not in this chapter.
Can you give me the full form or reference? I'm unable to connect it. Do you have any like reference for it?
Sir, I don't really know. My mother, she got her ECR increased a lot.
ACR. It's not autonomous. Not autonomous ACR. It should be something different, right? Maybe any neurotransmitter. It may be neurotransmitter and neurotransmitter and all that. I don't have any idea. I don't have any idea. It should be something medical term, right? So see you guys in next class, right? And we'll start from the human eye.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Bye bye. Good night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Welcome. Bye bye. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, beta. Bye bye. Good night.